Moneyball, Martha Stewart, and modern day media. What do they all have in common? Well, Steve Lacy, here in Des Moines, Iowa, you're probably the best person I've ever met that can speak to all three with great articulation and expertise. Moneyball, greatest business movie ever made, story of disruption, and you were on the front lines of disruption when the internet was invented. Tell us about that story. Tell us about what you went through when he's part of one of the biggest media companies in America, and what went down, Steve?
So we were in 1998, and I joined the company as a total outsider to the media marketplace. Did not have any, what I love to say is historical baggage limiting the ability to question what we had done. And at that point for 105 years as a media company. And in the world where I was...
Now these were magazines, and what else? What are the other properties?
Books, magazines, and television stations.
Great.
And in the world where I was operating then, as the internet came to be, there was tremendous either resistance, fear, or lack of belief that anything could be different than it has been for the last 100 years. So on the magazine side, the creative leaders viewed this as the enemy because it really threatened their world. And I viewed it as an amazing opportunity to interact with our female consumer more than once a month when we sent them a magazine. So
and these are magazines like Better Homes and Gardens.
Better Homes and Gardens, and Real Simple, and Southern Living, and Cooking Light. We didn't have people in those days. So I viewed it as a huge opportunity. A tremendous amount of the other folks viewed it as a tremendous threat and as just throwing money down a black hole. On the television side, where we even had a greater opportunity, we would have video content, and we in fact even embargoed the content, term of art, until the 6 or 10 o'clock news ran, and then we put the content on the website. So it was entirely backward, everything that we were doing. So two other people ran Meredith Interactive Media, and by the time I got asked by the CEO to take that over, we had worked it up to losing $10 million a year. Each year we lost more and made it a bigger black hole.
And now the guy with no media experience is going to go take it over.
Gonna take it over. And we really had a wonderful time doing it differently than Hearst, Condé Nast, Time Inc., because we were here in Iowa and we were not riding around in black cars in New York City. So we started interacting with the consumer more frequently. Recipe of the day that went out at 4 o'clock every afternoon. Weekend gardening tips. All sorts of things that you didn't have to wait for the magazine to come. We were making it part of your life and a bigger part of your life. And then the real breakthrough happened. I thought, what if rather than sending 150 million pieces of direct mail, we asked that consumer, would she possibly subscribe online? Now, there was no e-commerce. We never even thought that we might get her credit card.
This is ancient history. You know what we're talking about.
There was no e-commerce, but we got the order. And then with the order, we sent a bill and we got a paper check. And we had floors of people who processed all that. But it was the early day of getting out of mail and into a digital interaction with the consumer.
Internally, at the highest levels, how much did some of those meetings resemble that scene in Moneyball where Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, is talking to the old-time scouts trying to convince them there must be a better way?
Absolutely. Everybody on the creative side wanted to tar and feather me and send me down the Raccoon River. On the business side, once we started needing to do less mail, there became a few believers in those early days. But it took 5, 6, 7 years to get that 10 million loss to a profit. But most of that profit came from taking cost out of the system, as opposed to generating enough ad revenue to make this very expensive machine profitable.
What I find fascinating, Steve, and maybe you can speak to this, you were at a stage in your career and at a stage in history where clearly great vision was needed to see where this new technology could go. Why do you think leadership consistently refuses to see what the future holds?
I believe in almost every case it is historical baggage. We've always done it this way. This is what we understand. We've been successful for 100 years. Why mess with success? And I was just very confident that success was not going to continue. And I was young, and I had a young family, and I was frightened about the future. So because of that fear, I thought we got to do something different. Now, honestly, we didn't really know what we were doing till we started to have some success, and then we just put the pedal to the metal on e-commerce, and that was the game changer. That took that business from losing $10 million to making $500 million a year consistently.
It's a fantastic story of business leadership, but also great vision from here in Des Moines.
Don't forget great fear.
And great fear. Right, necessity and fear being the mother of invention. However, on that note, modern day media clearly has shifted into the internet, as you would have seen way back when in 1997, 98, 99, when it was just getting really off the ground. Moneyball, modern day media, now Martha Stewart. Now, I don't know about you, Steve. I don't care a lot for people who shamelessly name drop, but you brought it up at dinner last night that you and Martha Stewart were very, very close friends and confidants for a long, long time, and you learned a lot about how to build a brand from Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart built the best media brand from scratch of any example we had in the marketplace, because she did not have 100 years of history of selling better homes and gardens. She came at it in such a way that regardless of the platform, you could look at a piece and you knew it was Martha. It looked like Martha, it felt like Martha, and interestingly enough, when she had her problem with the law and went to jail, her subscription income, meaning the consumer buying her magazine, never deviated, because they didn't care that Martha went to jail.
If there's one, sorry, you just sparked an interesting question. If there's one overarching principle about the value of building a brand and consequently a legend like Martha Stewart, what would you share with folks?
I would say first and foremost to make sure that that legend is evident in every single thing that you do. It is impossible to pick up one of her books, to go to her website, to look at a video and not see that that is what we would always call vintage Martha. So when we took her business over, she continued to do the creative, and we took over all the other operations. Production, circulation, all of her activities of selling advertising, and she kept creative, which was what she did best. She didn't have scale to do the rest of it and make money.
You've had many dinner parties with Martha. Maybe share a little bit about what's it like to be around the table at Martha's home.
I'll tell you two quick stories about Martha that cause me great respect. So after 5, 6, 7 years of courting her to take her business over, we took it over and we announced it in the fall of 2007. And we were going to have a big Christmas party in New York City, and all of our female sellers were dead to meet Martha. I said, "Will you come?" So she's like, "I'm on my way," but she's downtown and we're midtown. And she calls me and I'm at the party. She goes, "Steve, I am in gridlock on 3rd Avenue. I'm going down in the subway and I'll be up in your building in 7 minutes." She jumped out of her car, went into the subway, and showed up at our party with it was an internal party. And then she always hosted, she talks about the farm in Bedford. There's a dining room table there, 10 on each side, 2 on each end. So Martha and I would sit at the end and I could have 20 other guests. And these young women, media buyers, you would think they would want nothing to do with her. They leaned in and hung on her every word, because she, in fact, is an expert in the categories where she does creative. And I found it to be amazing. We would take her to customer events in Charleston, hundreds of customers. She would work that room all night. No one works as hard as her. And I respect that. She's 82 years old. Don't forget, not long ago was on the swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated. Well, not a bad place to be.
I don't know that if any Vistage chair in the Midwest or much of America works as hard as you do. Steve, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for being here.
Enjoy
telling the story.
We have Moneyball, Martha Stewart, and modern day media all wrapped up into one dynamite package named Steve Lacy from Des Moines. It's been said you can't create a legend without a story. And as Steve just attested, you might be only one story away from creating your own legend.